Perhaps nobody can fully understand the power and meaning of love unless they own a dog. I strongly believe this too. And to bring us to the same page, I will be showing you heartwarming acts of dogs that will uplift your soul. First off is the story about two dogs who did something terrifying after something happened to their owner. Each morning we wake up and plan our day, but we never know how it will turn out, what each day holds for us. A man using a wheelchair from Chimbote, Peru, woke up and planned to walk his canines as usual. He did this almost every day with no glitch, but that morning proved different. That day, this man was walking his best friend when suddenly, he fell, hitting his head against the ground. Because of the fall, the man lost consciousness immediately. Since he only had his pups with him, bystanders had to come to the rescue, so they called for a team of paramedics. This group was about to witness the most heart-melting scene ever. Shortly after the emergency call, the paramedics arrived, but what they saw from afar differed completely from what they had pictured. Since they had been informed that a man was in a wheelchair, they had expected to see another human beside him. So it came as a surprise when they saw the dogs instead. But it wasn't the presence of the pups that made their jaws drop. Rather, it was what they were doing. The canines were lying so close to the man as if they were trying to keep him safe. Dogs often lick their wounds to hasten recovery, so they were doing the same to the man too in a desperate but loving attempt to treat him. When the paramedics finally got closer, they realized that the man's condition was critical, so they lifted him onto a stretcher and started rushing him towards the ambulance. Just then, something surprising happened again. The man's dog started running towards the ambulance too and tried pushing the stretcher. This move made the health workers so emotional, but allowing dogs was against their rules. So at first, they tried to chase the dogs away, but their attempt was futile. It was clear that the dogs were ready to bring down mountains just to be in the same place with their injured owner. So the paramedics did something loving too. They allowed the dogs to come with them. While in the van, the dogs continued to care for their owner. After some minutes, the man regained consciousness. Immediately, he opened his eyes. The first thing he searched for was his pups. And when they saw him, he could tell that they were scared out of their minds. So he touched them, assuring them that all would be well. On getting to the hospital, the loyal canines could enter as guardians, and they waited outside the room while the doctors attended to their owner. After a few hours, the man got better and gradually gained his strength back, but the dog still refused to leave his side. However, since they were exhausted too, they finally took some time to relax, resting their heads beside their owner's feet. Everyone in the hospital who had witnessed how these dogs cared for their owner were so impressed. They acknowledged the canines as superheroes and true guardians. Indeed, a dog is a man's best friend. Here is another heart-melting story that demonstrates the beautiful bond dogs share with humans. It all started when a woman from Buyakata Island, Istanbul, Turkey, fell sick at home. So her family members quickly contacted the emergency unit. When the health workers arrived, they started administering first aid, but the woman's condition didn't improve, so the medics took her to the hospital for proper care. While they were attending to the woman, neither of them noticed the woman's dog in the room. The pup knew that something was wrong with her owner, and she had also been very restless the whole time. However, she was about to do something gutsy that would finally set everyone's eyes on her. It all started when the woman was placed on a stretcher. While they were carrying her out of the house and towards the ambulance, the canine jumped out of the house too. Perhaps the dog's action would have gone unnoticed, but not only did she run out, she also started barking and fighting her way into the ambulance. It was such a touching but sweet display of love and fear. Despite how swayed the paramedics were, they couldn't let the puppy come with them because it was against the rules. While everyone expected the dog to turn back, what happened next was amazing. Love makes us do almost anything, and the dog's motivation was nothing short of real emotion and care for her owner. So as the ambulance drove off, the determined pup threw caution to the wind and started running after the van. She wanted to make sure that she was there for her owner during her weak moment. Unrelenting, the dog continued chasing the ambulance at close range till she suddenly got to the hospital too. Sadly, on getting to the health center, the pup was also denied entry, but she had already come too far to turn back, so she waited outside for the woman. After some time, the woman was discharged and she was finally reunited with her best friend. No doubt dogs are sweet creatures. What this dog in this next story did will make you emotional. A few years ago, Xiao, 56, was diagnosed with hypertension and heart disease. He lived in fear that anything could happen to him any day. But he was never alone in his struggles. Mao Mao, his dog, understood his fears and pains. Soon, you will see how far this faithful dog will go for Xiao. Eventually, Xiao's condition got so bad. Then one day, the doctor told him he would have to sleep with a ventilator. When it was time for Xiao to use the nebulizer for the first time, something heartwarming happened. Mao Mao knew Xiao was sick, but she had never seen him use one before, so everything seemed so strange. But as Xiao placed the ventilator over his nose, Mao Mao rushed to his side. Then, with fear and worry deeply engraved in her eyes, she put her head on his chest. After that, she continued staring at him as if to say, "All is well, I am here now." Xiao understood his dog was worried, so he tried to reassure her that everything was good and she could go. But Mao Mao refused, and it's been that way every night. Each time Xiao puts on his breathing apparatus, Mao Mao rushes to his side and places her head on his chest. And she never gets up from the bed until Xiao wakes up. She took it upon herself to protect Xiao while he slept. Quite an adorable dog, right? But Mao Mao isn't the only sweet dog. Here is how this dog also captured everyone's heart. One day in July 2018, a woman living in Heilongjiang, China, was walking her golden retriever when she suddenly collapsed. After the woman fell, the dog went into a panic immediately. He tapped the woman repeatedly, but she still wouldn't move. The pup laid by her side and refused to move an inch. Soon, passers-by quickly alerted emergency services, and they arrived in minutes. On getting to the scene, at first, the paramedics were scared of the dog because of its big size, so they didn't approach the woman. However, when they noticed the dog wasn't aggressive and she was only protecting her owner, they started tending to the woman immediately. Once they lifted her onto the stretcher, the pup's mood changed. Everyone could tell that she was happy that help had come. Initially, the paramedics wouldn't allow the dog to enter the ambulance, but when they saw that she was persistent, they had to break their rules and let the doting canine in. When the paramedics thought that they had seen it all, the next thing the dog did took them by surprise. Upon arriving at the hospital, the golden retriever made a sweet attempt at pushing the stretcher as they lowered the woman down from the ambulance. Because of the hospital's rules, the dog wasn't allowed inside, so she waited outside the treatment room while the doctors attended to the woman. After a few hours, the woman regained consciousness and something interesting happened. The first person she requested was her dog. When she heard her name, she came running like a true guardian, excited that her owner had recuperated. It must have been a shocking and stressful moment for the duo, so after seeing each other again, they let all their emotions out and hugged each other. If you think you've seen it all, then this next story will leave you completely blown away. Dogs are loyal and will fiercely defend those they love. One dog, Bunkuk, went the extra mile in demonstrating this after her owner, Senturk, was admitted to a hospital in northern Turkey. Senturk had suddenly fallen ill, and when an ambulance came to pick her up at home, Bunkuk could ride along. However, when they got to the hospital, the pup wasn't allowed to enter. When this happened, Bunkuk did something amazing. She sat outside the hospital's entrance, and it was clear that she was waiting for her owner to come out. Sadly, the woman wasn't discharged that day, but Bunkuk was unrelenting. She started visiting the hospital daily, arriving at 9 a.m. and only leaving when night falls. Within these few days, Bunkuk became popular within the hospital's vicinity, but something she did made her even more famous and loved. After some days, Senturk's daughter, Anyer Ageli, took Bunkuk home. Everyone thought they would no longer see the loving doggo, but they were shocked to their bones when she showed up the following day, running towards the hospital's door to take her seat as usual. She had fled from home and found her way to the hospital all by herself. This act made everyone love her even more. After some days later, Senturk was finally discharged, and when she was reunited with her doggy, Bunkuk was more than elated to see her, and she wouldn't stop wagging her tail. There's a saying, if you want someone to love you forever, buy a dog, feed it, and keep it around. Has your dog ever been there for you when you were ill? What did they do?